Oh, man. What's going on, everybody? Hope you're doing well. Welcome to Let's Keep Talking. My name is Braxton Gilbert, and today I have a wonderful, wonderful episode for you. Today's episode is all about growing up, and growing up can be difficult. You know, you start out as a child, you're young, you're sensitive, you're naive, you're a dreamer, you have love and openness and positivity. And then life smacks you, and life gets painful. Today, I want to talk about how I've grown up over the last few years, and how more recently I've started to question what growing up really means. And I want to share that with you. I've got a lot of notes here today because this is an important topic, and I want to make sure to prepare. But I'm going to use these a little differently. Normally, I read through them and use it as kind of a story form to bounce off of. I might do that a little bit today. I might just kind of speak from my hip a little bit, fire from the hip. But yeah, either way, we're here. It's a great episode. Let's keep talking. Episode 46. Today's episode is doesn't have a title, but you clicked on it, so you know the title. Let's read this quick intro. And then let's get this discussion started. Intro. I grew up wrong. When I was young, I was full of love and optimism, and all I wanted was to help other people. As I got older, life got tough, and I was forced to, quote-unquote, grow up. But now, after a few years as a grown-up, I'm starting to think we may have gotten it all wrong. Today, I'd like to encourage you to reconsider what it means to grow up. When I was young, I was full of life and love and excitement and optimism for the future. I got involved with personal training when I was 15. I built a business with it, opened up a gym when I was 18, 19, 20, 21. I was beaming with love and positivity for people. And that was great. That was fantastic. There were some weaknesses I had there. There were some vulnerabilities that I had from lack of experience. There was some oversimplification about how I understood life. There was some over positivity that I had from time to time. But I was a absolute purpose-driven person. The thing that was most important to me, how I defined success growing up when I was, a young person, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 15 to 20 years old, success for me was helping other people. I woke up every day with this sense of purpose to contribute to those around me and to love them and to share life with them. As I grew up a little bit more, as I started to turn into an adult, 20 years old or so, I started to realize that there were negative qualities to my personality. I started to see that I was a dreamer, and the world and those around me, those older than me and those I consider wiser than me, started to really get me down. And I started to learn that dreamers are either naive children or manipulative people trying to sell you something. That's something I learned. As life got tough and I grew up more, growing up felt like learning that dreamers are, they're there. Cute. Grow up, man. Life ain't all sunshine and rainbows. And when you're young, that can hit you hard. Hearing someone say, life ain't all sunshine and rainbows is crushing because you see it that way. you see it as beautiful. You see it as full of potential and prolific. I mean, you see the grass growing from the ground and the birds flying and the sun coming up, and you go, the waves are crashing. Life is beautiful, and love is real, and connection with others is amazing. But then life hits you, and you grow up, and you get tired, and you start to see that dreams are hard to come by, and people are selfish, and people are rude and mean and nasty. And if you don't think about yourself first, other people are going to get one over on you. So don't fucking mess with me. So you start hardening your face. You start hardening your heart. As I grew up, 20 years old, 21 years old, 22 years old, 23 years old, 24 years old, that's what growing up looked like for me. Growing up meant abandoning my childlike, purpose-driven, open personality, full of love, and with the desire to contribute. It meant going, hey, man, a man gets up and works hard and gets the job done and makes money for his family. Anybody who tells you life is beautiful is trying to sell you something. People can't change. People can't change. Anybody who tells you differently is trying to sell you something. Happiness, joy, playfulness, these things. This is a big one I learned in the last few years. Happiness, joy, playfulness are not manly. These things are not manly. They're weaknesses. So toughen up. I learned growing up meant realizing that life wasn't all that great and only the hard survive. This is what I've learned. This is a tough thing to talk about, man, because these are painful. This is a painful recap of the loss of self. I learned that happy and joyful equals naive. I learned that a dreamer is childish, and even worse, manipulative. An adult who's a dreamer is manipulative, not based in reality, and deceptive. And I learned that being excited and optimistic meant you were inexperienced. The light that I possessed started getting hit hard by life, and I learned those things. I labeled those as over-dramatic lessons I learned during the growing up process. And like I said at the beginning of this podcast, I want to have you consider what growing up really means. Because here's what happened is I took on those lessons. After a few years, I found myself cold. Guys, look, the last 2 years have been tough, have been cold. The last year and the last 8 months, especially, the last 6 months, the last year, I haven't been happy. I haven't been happy, man. I haven't been joyful. I haven't felt purpose. I haven't cared about loving those around me, man. I haven't wanted to connect and to celebrate life. The only thing I celebrate are the instant gratification pleasures that relieve me from the boring, mundane, painful existence of life. The life where people don't change and happiness, joy, playfulness are not manly, so toughen up. And the life where dreamers are foolish. This dark, nihilistic message that is internalized as part of the growing up process. I haven't wanted to love on people. I haven't wanted to care about other people. In a sense, in the growing up phase, I feel like I lost myself. But I accepted that as just being part of it. I accepted that as just being, hey, you got to grow up. Because one of the main motivations for growing up was critiquing the myself and seeing that inside my personality, there were things that were not ideal. Within my youthful, dreamer, loving, caring, passionate personality, there was also spontaneousness, but maybe in the form of impulsivity. And there was lack of responsibility. There was lack of reliability. There was oversimplification about how to go about life. There were things that needed to be weeded out through the years. But through the, growing up doesn't get handed to you in a very wise fashion. It gets dropped on you and crushes you. I grew out of these things because they were negative. But here is the thing. Here's what I'm learning, man. Maybe it ain't growing out of those things because there's negative bits to it. Maybe it's curbing those bits. Maybe it's adding in where you're missing. The last few years, I've been cold, not dreaming, just trying to make $1, trying to engineer my success in business to make up for a lack of soul. That's a huge one, man. My business, guys, how you doing today? I hope you're having a great day. Thanks for listening to this episode. Look, my business used to be an infrastructure, a thing that supported this passion, this desire to connect, to love, to minister, to share, to be with people. My business used to be a checks and organization structure on how to support the soul and the desire that poured out of me. The schedule, the trainers, the other staff, the manuals, it was all a material manifestation of the soul in me that poured through and said, I just want to connect with people and just want to love people. But over the last couple of years, because within that, I began to wield the power negatively. I had a natural, it feels natural because I started working on it when I was young, but I was really good with communication, really good with sales, really good with connection, really good with those things. And along the way, I started to lose my way. Somewhere around 19 to 20, I started using my ability to inspire people to change, my ability to inspire people to sign up and to do the thing. I started using that as a number on a spreadsheet to convert leads into customers to be able to get the lifetime value out of them, and it started to lose its soul. I started to misuse my skills. That was one of the main motivators for growing up, was rejecting and criticizing the ways that I had misused my skills. And I'm here to tell you today, guys, that maybe growing up doesn't look like becoming the critic of yourself and throwing away the baby with the bathwater because you misused or were vulnerable or were misguided or were off on your approach. I'm here to tell you today that maybe growing up is much different than that. Maybe it's much different than that. The last few years, I've been trying to make success from strategies, angles, etc. My business has become a method of trying to extract resources from other people instead of giving and loving those in it. Overall, I've just been really fucking cold, real grown up and real pessimistic. Let me see what I got written down here. I've been growing up, but I've been unhappy. I've been responsible, but not joyful. I've been serious, but not playful. I realized the other day that, I had developed some good qualities in the years as I got older, specifically being more responsible and empathetic that's based in reality, not a salesman type optimism. So it's not all bad, but I ask myself, are you happy? Are you enjoying the days? Because through the process of growing up, I lost something that felt so important. My life, my zest. I had disconnected from what felt like my purpose. Here's what I'm learning about growing up. Because, guys, about a week ago, I thought, Brax, you're not happy. You're not. Where are you? Where is the passionate lover, the playful, leader, the excited communicator. Where is he? And it was like I heard myself go, you killed that motherfucker. You buried him because you were embarrassed by him. You buried him because you thought his playfulness, his desire to connect, his openness, his joy was manipulative. You buried him because you thought his smile and his love was weakness. The people in your life told you it was. The people you were around convinced you it was, and you accepted that. So now here you are, cold, calculated, and rigorous. And I asked myself this a week ago. I thought about this. I was having lunch, and it came to me. Yeah, I've grown up a lot in the last couple of years. That's what I thought to myself. Yeah, I've grown up a lot in the last couple of years. I've become more reliable, more responsible, more organized, less salesy, less manipulative in the way that I use my personality. But you're really unhappy. And I thought, because I'm really unhappy. I've been really unhappy for a while now. The last week I haven't, ever since I began to make this discovery. I asked myself, could your largest source of unhappiness be your self-centeredness? Because that's one of the major shifts that I've had since growing up has been I've become very self-centered, very selfish, very cynical, very hard, very selfish. What's in it for me? I talk to people and say, what you got for me? What is it? Huh? What you got for me? Instead of connecting with someone and being open to him. That moment felt very significant to me. That moment felt like, oh shit. Oh shit. Probably. Maybe. Sure feels like. I don't know. Why try changing your perspective for a minute. What if you looked around the people around you not as someone to be getting something from, not people to control, lust after, gain power from, and to use like cogs in a wheel to get what you want? What if you looked at the people around you as canvases for love? What if you looked around at the people around you as people that you have the unique opportunity to meet, share, and love on? And it was like immediately I started to feel this shift in my heart. Underneath the rubble of my heart, I started to feel this thing. And I thought, oh my God, there's something there. This is interesting. And so I spent a lot of time reflecting on this and really thinking about it. And last week it really hit me that, shit, Brax, through the growing up process, hold on, I think I'm going to sneeze. Sorry. Through the growing up process, you abandoned a lot of the things that made you you. Damn. You abandoned a lot of the things that make you you. There are some things that needed to be discarded, needed to be curbed, needed to be changed, but not replaced. Some things that needed to be changed, but not replaced. I thought growing up was growing out of your childlikeness. But now I'm seeing growing up as not becoming the critic of your youthful love and dream, but learning how to ground them in reality and bring them into life in a real way as you become more experienced in life. Here's where I went wrong. I replaced my childlike qualities with quote-unquote grown-up ones instead of growing up to support my childlike qualities. Think about this, guys. Think about this. And I really hope this episode helps you. I hope this conversation is helpful because damn it, is it helpful for me. Damn it, has it changed the game for me? Has it lit me up inside? Has it reconnected with the part in me that feels like a child? The part of me that feels childlike, loving, playful, passionate, caring, compassionate, considerate. It's connected me with the part of me that says, we can do it. It's connected me with those things. Think about this. Think about this. Maybe growing up is the process of acquiring the skills needed to support optimism, love, empathy, and openness. Maybe growing up is not abandoning those things that make you childlike. Guys, maybe growing up is not abandoning the things that make you like a child. Beautiful, loving, open, compassionate, caring, considerate, dreaming, full of life. Not abandoning those things. Maybe life is about developing the skills, the ancillary skills, the accessory skills needed to support that child, because that child inside of you doesn't have a backbone, doesn't have a fucking a no. That child doesn't have a no. That child doesn't have a, you don't fucking do that to me. That child doesn't have teeth. But that child has eyes that can see the future. That child has a love that touches the pain. That child has life. And you don't want to trade off your life for cynicism and harshness and negativity and toughness and armor. That child can dance. It can move. The energy is beautiful. You don't want to trade that for blocky armor that you can't move around in. You know, I was talking to my good friend, Icarus. What's up, baby? The other day about this exact concept. And I said, I think that as I grew up, the pain made me put on armor. But instead of putting on the appropriate amount of armor, I put on so much fucking armor that I couldn't dance no more. You know, too much armor. Growing up is the process of acquiring, maybe growing up is the process of acquiring the skills needed to support optimism, love, empathy, and openness. Listen here, hear me. To not have those traits, optimism, love, openness, empathy, to not have those, like most grown-ups do, to not have those traits is not to be a grown-up, but to be a dead child. Most people aren't grown-ups. They're just a dead child. Do you hear me? Does anybody hear me on this? Hello? Does anybody fucking hear me on this? To not have optimism and love, to not have the desire to connect and to heal and to inspire and to dream and to see the future as something worth living for, to not have those things is not to be grown up. It's not to be fucking grown up, man. Like the things I learned, grow up. It's not to be grown up. It's to be a dead child. Because what if being a grown-up is the version of yourself that redeems and reconciles with the child that you lost when you initially got older? Because that's what grown-ups do, right? Grown-ups care for children. That's what a grown-up is the caretaker of a child. And if you let your child die inside of you, what kind of fucking grown-up are you? Is that a grown-up? Isn't a grown-up the addition of the skills needed to support something that can't support itself? God damn it. Isn't that what a grown-up is? Typically, when people grow up, they trade optimism for pessimism. Instead, how about protecting or supporting optimism with two new skills, like resourcefulness and resilience? Before, you were just optimistic. As a child, you were just optimistic with no real experience or support, right? You really are. You're optimistic. Well, you're just a dreamer. You're just a kid. Yes, you are right. I am just a kid. Yes, you're right. That person is really young. They have yet to be hit in the face. But listen here, you fucking dick. Listen to me. You're not a grown-up because someone else is more optimistic than you, and you are negative, and you are pessimistic. They're not a idiot. They just haven't lost what you lost. And you ain't no grown-up because you lost it. You will become a grown-up when you reconcile with it. You will actually begin the growing up process when you journey back inwards to find your child inside. You're not a grown-up looking at a young person who's a dreamer and casting criticism on them. You're only a grown-up when you can look at a young person who's a dreamer and begin to help them become wiser so they don't lose that as they interact with life's challenges. Now, as a grown-up, you are optimistic because of your abilities you've developed. You're no longer naive, but you're a far shot away from the dead wasteland of pessimism. Guys, the grown-up version of you is the person you have to become to rescue and redeem the child. That's the grown-up version of you, not the hardened, cynical one who abandons it. I hope you hear me. Everybody on this episode, how you doing? Good to see you. Good to hear from you. If you're listening on the podcast, thanks for checking in. Please rate the show. Please rate the show, okay? Helps me out. Please rate the show. Share it with a friend, okay? If you like this episode. Everybody who's listening, the adult people, hello. The adult is not the hardened, cynical one that leaves the inner child. It's the one that goes to redeem the inner child. It's the experienced yet sensitive version of you. It's the strong yet positive version of you. Most people are positive and weak. They go through life. Life is hard. They get hit by life, and now they become strong. They're tough. They can take life. But can you connect with the childlike optimism you used to have? It's not going to be the same. You're not going to be naive because you've seen the world now. But have you completely abandoned the positive view of life? Is that a grown-up? I don't think it is. I feel like the losing yourself part of the growing up is 100% necessary. This is why I say I want to reconsider what it means to grow up. One of the sad parts about the experiences I've been reflecting on it is I lost myself. I've lost myself for a while now. I lost myself. I lost the childlike, beautiful version of myself. And it sounds like William Montgomery. And that's sad. But I think that is the point. I think that you can't become a grown-up until you lose yourself. If you haven't lost yourself, if you haven't lost the connection with that child, or at least come damn near close to it, have you experienced any life? Letdown and pain and suffering. If you still look at the world with wide eyes and an open mouth, what is it? Have you began the process that might end up in your maturation, your growing up? I think it's imperative. I think you have to lose yourself. But most people stop there. I think the growing up portion is not losing the child and becoming an adult. I think the growing up portion is losing the child, becoming hardened and rigid and strengthened by life. And then the growing up portion starts. This is the one that no one ever does. This is what I think no one does. This is why I'm saying this is a brilliant episode, and I hope you like it because it has opened my soul. The growing up process starts now. This last week has been the beginning of me genuinely being a grown-up. Genuinely being a grown-up. I think the growing up process starts when you decide to integrate what you've learned into who you were as a young person. Connect your experience and your growing wisdom with the purpose and dreams you've had since your youth. A full person, grown up. Let me ask you this. If your love and empathy are smaller than they were when you were young, are you growing? Are you growing up? If your optimism is not strengthened because of your resilience and your resourcefulness, if now it's just flat, no optimism, if your empathy is not deepened by the pain that you've experienced as a human being, my friend, if your ability to empathize with somebody is not strengthened over the years since air quotes, growing up, are you really growing up or are you dying? If your love for others, if your ability to play, I think about this in terms of resistance. I mean, I've got a strength training background. If your ability to play was this much, I'm just making a small amount if you're just listening with some fingers, this much, and it faces resistance over time. If you don't lose the direction, the intention to play, and it pushes against the resistance, it grows stronger. It's like a muscle. It grows stronger. But if you collapse under the resistance and no longer continue in the direction, you lose it. If your ability to play and love and empathize are smaller than they were 20 years ago, 15 years ago, are you growing up? Or have you frozen growth? Have you frozen the growth in all the positive qualities as soon as you stripped away your naivete? That is the dark underbelly is the right term there. I've heard people use it. The dark underside to this growing up philosophy that I think a lot of us are fed. And today you have the option to liberate yourself from. Okay? The dark side of this is if your love, empathy, etc. are smaller than they were when you were young, are you still growing? Or have you frozen the growth in all the positive qualities as soon as you stripped away your naivete? As soon as you became less naive, all those good qualities died. Because even further, this would suggest that those qualities are only suited and able to grow within naivete. And that is depressing. That's depressing, man. If your love for others, your compassion, your understanding, your patience, your ability to play and to connect, your optimism haven't grown over the years, they have shrunk and died and frozen ever since you became less naive as a child, doesn't subscribing to that philosophy suggest that only within that naivete can those sunshine and rainbows, man, grow? Life's not sunshine and fucking rainbows, man. Life is shit sometimes. Life is fucking death-worthy. Life is horrible. I have been there, man. I've sat and contemplated it on the darkest of mornings, the darkest of nights, and saying, I do not want to go forward in this life because it feels like everything is underpinned by pain and letdown. And what the fuck is the point of acquiring new friends, lovers, business? What's the point if everything is going to end and all it's going to bring is pain? I know that. I know that, man. Ever since you became less naive, all of the beautiful qualities in you disappeared. Isn't the point of life to increase those qualities too? Isn't that the point? And maybe growing up or being a grown-up is a stance you take. It's a position that you have your heart at. It's an experienced position that you angle yourself at towards the flow of life so that you are increased. You're increased by the passing of time, and you're increased by life's challenges and difficulties. I think about a podcast that I watched the other day, a short clip of a gentleman who was talking about losing his daughter. He lost his daughter when she was a child, and he says, I never run from the pain of losing my daughter. I never do. I sit in it. I immerse myself in it. And I feel it. Because only then, at the deepest of that pain, is the only time I ever really feel love. That's a grown-up. That's a grown-up. As a child, you're naive, open, loving, and optimistic. Moving into adolescence, and where most people stay thinking they're grown-ups, you face pain and letdowns, and you adjust your expectations. That's where most people stay. Growing up, though, I'm here to inspire you to think that maybe growing up is processing the letdowns and the pain in life, learning and redeeming, inviting back into the conversation, inviting back on board the child. Here's the shitty part. Here's one of the saddest parts about this. Most people let go of their child because the child is who they blame for the pain they faced. You have to reconcile with the child. You have to bring the child back on board and say, I'm here. I am here to be with you. And I know you were naive. I know you were a little bit over the top. I know you were too trusting, whatever. But I don't blame you anymore. I know that that's the process of life, going from child with all the childlike qualities through life. And when I hit the pain, I blamed the child for not being prepared. You couldn't be prepared. I don't know who needs to hear that, but you couldn't be prepared. You couldn't have been prepared for the pain that happened to you. You couldn't have been prepared for the pain that happened to you. You couldn't. But don't you dare blame the child for the mistakes that happened, the pain that was felt, and the mistakes that were done. For me particularly, that's one specific thing. I blame myself for the ways that I misused my skills as I grew in business and lost my focus. And I threw the whole thing away instead of stripping away the parts that were ugly and curbing those skills. Look, guys, here's what I think growing up is. Here's what I'm here to suggest growing up is. Maybe growing up is the process that begins once you decide that you don't want to be cold, weathered, and negative and pessimistic. Maybe growing up is the process that happens when you're willing to go in and find the parts of you that were childlike that you abandoned. And the growing up process is integrating the two. When you begin to not identify as the better than the child, you're not better than you were when you were younger. You still are that child, but integrate the two. You're not becoming the critic of your younger, stupider self. You're becoming the more mature version that involves both love, passion, dreaming, with experience, resourcefulness, the ability to say no, understanding people and their intentions are not always clear. You are older and more mature, not hardened by life. That's what I want to suggest today that growing up is about. So I want to ask you, have you began that process? Are you growing up? As your experiences increase in life, are your childlike qualities diminished? And if they are, according to this philosophy that I'm trying to present today, you're not growing up, you're dying. Don't die. It's hard to say that with any bit of positive emotion because I understand who I'm talking to. I get it. Don't die. It's not a fun thing to say. Don't die. But seriously, don't die. Don't die. I know the pain is heavy. I know the pain is unbearable. Reach out. Reach out to somebody. Reach out to somebody. Be unwilling to give up those beautiful, beautiful, childlike, loving qualities. Be unwilling not to equip them with experience and strength that have come with your years. The other day when I had this epiphany and when I began to think about this, I was reminded immediately of the Theodore Roosevelt quote that says, "It's not the critic who counts." I'm going to finish today's episode of Let's Keep Talking, episode 46, by reading that quote. Theodore Roosevelt. It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena. You could replace man with grown-up. Let's replace the word man with grown-up, and let's reread this whole quote. It is not the critic who counts, not the grown-up who points out how the strong person stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the grown-up who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust, sweat, and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short and again, because there is no effort without shortcoming and error. That one was important to me. I blamed myself for the misuse of my skills. I blamed myself for the vulnerabilities that made me suffer pain. I blamed myself for my inexperience. But man, I had heart. I had heart. And I discarded that entire personality because of his shortcomings and his errors instead of tweaking them. And now, with the beautiful wisdom of Theodore Roosevelt, I see that there is no effort without error and shortcoming. That's part of it. But he who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be alongside those cold and timid souls who neither knew victory nor defeat. I encourage you not to become the critic of your younger self, not to abandon yourself and become this sideline sitter that critiques the ways you used to be. I encourage you to redeem the beautiful parts of you, the love and the passion that are childlike, and merge them, weld them together with the experience and the wisdom that have come with your years of age. In short, today I want to encourage you to begin the process of growing up with a lot of tenderness and a lot of love. Thank you so much for listening to this episode, guys. It is always a pleasure. And yeah, let me know what you thought about today's episode. Today was a little more off the hip, and it feels a lot better to do it like this. But sometimes I wonder if the message comes across as clear. If you have listened to a couple of the episodes and you could compare and contrast, hey, I like the one you did kind of point. You did the points and the numbers and all that kind of stuff, and also some of them ones where you're talking just from your hip. Let me know what you think, because this episode is not just for me to talk about it, it's to connect with you and to get these points across. So anyways, thank you so much. I love you very much, and I will see you next Monday. Bye.